Hi, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel for a different video. I am doing a tag video. I don't do very many of these, but I was tagged by the amazing Melinda over at A Web of Stories. She tagged me in the reader profile tag. Now, this tag was started by a new booktuber, Hillary at Book Bustle, so I will make sure to link her channel down below as well. She's got a really fun channel, so make sure to check her out as well. So the first question is, what for you makes a good book? And this really depends on what kind of book it is and also what I'm up to and how I'm feeling. So for example, nonfiction, I like something that feels very well researched and that I feel like is accurate and isn't just throwing things in, but really has done the proper due diligence on everything written, but also I want it to be engaging. And so present the material that's well researched in a manner that grabs me. That's what I love in a nonfiction. In more of a memoir, I'm looking for not just an interesting life story, but I want it to be told well. I want there to be a real sense of voice because I'm trying to see where somebody is coming from. So that's what I'm looking for in a memoir. In a fiction book, especially in a contemporary fiction book, I'm looking to learn about a different point of view that I might not have seen otherwise. I want to understand a different worldview and get into somebody else's head and figure things out. So I want the characters to really come together that way. If it's a historical fiction, I want elements of what I'm looking for in contemporary fiction, but I want something that is, once again, really well researched and accurate to the time and respectful of the events. That's what I'm looking for with historical fiction. If I'm looking for fantasy, I might look for better world building and a really good sense of escapism. If I'm looking for a good sci-fi, I might look for different ideas that I hadn't thought of before. So I think that it really depends on the book and just how much patience and time I am able to give it at the moment. If I am running around, can't sit and focus on something, I might be only wanting something fast-paced, and that's gonna be a good book for me. But if I am able to put a little bit more time into something with really beautiful writing and beautiful prose might be more a priority. So all this to say, I don't know, it depends on too many factors on what makes a good book for me. The question number 2 is, what are you currently reading? So I've got 2 books going right now. I just barely checked out Catherine the Great, Portrait of a Woman by Robert K. Massie. So that's gonna be interesting. I am not far enough in it to tell you much other than the first couple pages I'm doing okay with. We'll see. I'm enjoying it the first tiny bit that I have read. I recently read Hungry Heart by Adventures in Life, Love, and Writing by Jennifer Weiner, and after reading this is her, she is a successful author, and it is talking about her life and the process of her writing, and it's kind of a collection of essays. And after listening to that, I thought, you know, I should pick up another book by this author because I'm listening to her memoir, but I've never picked up any of her books. So I am listening right now to the book Mrs. Everything, and so far so good, I guess. I'm not quite sure. I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated on that one. But those are the 2 books that I've got going currently. Oh, and reading out loud to my daughter, I am reading the 2nd book in the Enola Holmes series. The next question is, what is the last book you didn't finish and why? Now, this one, I started the book Tides by Sarah Freeman, and I did not finish it. I put it down, and I don't think I have very good reasons for putting it down. If the description of it is, after a sudden devastating loss, Mara flees her family and ends up adrift in a wealthy seaside town with a dead cell phone and barely any money. And she is spending her days in self-imposed exile, scrounging for food and swimming in the night ocean, and it's her emotional extremes, blah, like, that's what it's supposed to be about. And I had just read a book that was taking place a lot on the seaside and was very focused on feelings, and getting into this, I was like, I don't want to read about this lady living on the beach. It just really wasn't working for me. So it's nothing against this book necessarily. It was just maybe timing for me, or maybe the book is horrible and I dodged a bullet. I don't know, but really after the first little bit of this one, I just was like, yeah, nah, not the time for me. Okay, prompt number 4 is, what obscure book do you wish other people would read? And this one's weird, but I want people to read this book called Miss Buncle's Book by D.E. Stevenson. And I read this a few years ago. My aunt recommended it, and this is such a delightful book. It was written back in 1934, and it is about a woman who writes a book, but she doesn't have a great imagination. So her book is all about the people in her town. And she writes this book and changes some of the names and gets it published under a pseudonym. And then all the people in the town start realizing that this book is about them, and they're trying to figure out who wrote this book, and is this really true? Did this really happen? And I thought it was just so delightful. I had the most fun with this book. So I want people to read this. It's been quite a while, so maybe it doesn't hold up, but I would love people to read this and let me know, because I just remember being absolutely delighted by this book. Prompt number 5 is, what is the longest book you've ever read? And it's not like I keep track, I don't know. I read Les Mis quite a few years ago. That one's pretty long. The Count of Monte Cristo is pretty long, but those are also books that didn't feel very long because I feel like they were very gripping. So I think I have read other books that are much shorter that have felt like they dragged, but I think those are probably some of the longer ones I've read. Prompt number 6 is, if you could have a dinner party with 5 fictional characters, who would they be? I'm not quite sure. I think, having just read Lord of the Rings to my daughter, hobbits, I think, would have a really great dinner party. It would be very fun to have a dinner party with some hobbits. Sounds like a lot of great food. They know how to have a good time. That sounds fun. Anybody with magical powers? Yeah, entertain me with your magical powers. Cool. I would love to have a dinner party with someone. But honestly, I can't really think of anyone that I'm like, I need to sit down and have dinner with them, mostly because I start thinking it's kind of awkward. I've been reading these books and I've been in your head, so I know a lot about you and you don't know anything about me, and it's like this weird relationship. It would be, I don't think I could handle that kind of pressure, you know? Like, I need a fictional character that I have not seen too much of their lives, because how do you get into that kind of relationship in a dinner party? Just doesn't seem like the right venue for those kinds of conversations. I don't know. I could not see that going very well. Prompt number 7 is 5 books you'd want if stranded on a desert island. I have a few books that were written by my grandpa about his family, his parents, and his life, and I would want those. I would want those because I feel like if you are trapped somewhere, it would feel really grounding to remember some of the history in your family and to have those comforting stories and to remember where you came from. I think that would be really great. And aside from that, I would love any sort of survival guide, or also just a really long book. Because if you're stuck there forever, you can take all the time. I mean, get the biggest book that you can think of because you have all the time in the world. So that's probably what I would want if I was stuck somewhere. Question number 8 is 1 book you could not put down. I couldn't really think of one, and it's mostly because most books I just don't put down. If I put them down, there's something wrong with the book. I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't really have any chill. Like, I'm either reading all of it or I'm reading none of it. I'm not very good at that moderation kind of thing with reading. So I don't know, there are a lot of things that I haven't been able to put down. Prompt number 9 is 5 books or authors you will never read. And I don't think I am going to read any more Colleen Hoover. I think I read a book by her a few years ago and I'm good. I'll pass. I'm just gonna skip right over that. I am not really gonna get into Sarah J. Maas. I have heard her books described as fairy porn, and that doesn't sound appealing to me personally. I'm gonna avoid that. So I think that those are definitely things I will avoid. And the last prompt is, if you were to write a book, what would it be about? And I know this because I have a struggle to think imaginatively. So I don't think I would be super great at writing fiction or fantasy. I like to read those sometimes. I think that those have really great things, but I have a hard time coming up with the ideas on my own. I think if I were to write a book, it would be either memoir or nonfiction. And nonfiction would just be if I found something I was very interested in. I could see me just starting to collect information and then at a certain point feel like I need to organize it. I could see that happening if I ever wanted to get into that. Also, I do like memoir, but I like it in kind of that short, quippy essays sort of way. I have enjoyed in the past trying to write or consolidate some of my experiences into fun anecdotes that I can share. And so I would enjoy writing something like that. If I were to sit down tomorrow and somebody told me, you have to write a book, I would start writing about some crazy things that happened in my driving class and things that have happened to me and try to make them lighter and more fun and fun to read and talk about. So that might not be necessarily what I read all the time, but that is what I would probably write about. And that is all the questions for the reader profile tag. If you enjoyed this tag, feel free to do it. I'm not going to tag anyone, but the prompts will be in the description down below, and feel free to do this. And if you have any thoughts on your answers to these questions, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below, but I will be back soon with another book wrap up.